Hey folks, this is what I hope will be a successful attempt to at least approximate a discussion of what I've been noticing in another one of Prokofiev's shorter piano works, this one specifically being the Opus 3, number 4 piece called Phantom. And it's I dress rehearsed this earlier, so hopefully this will go presentably, and you can follow what I'm talking about. Now, again, what I'm interested in here is, or at least for me, generally, what I find to be of great interest is the reuse of material over time by composers. And specifically, what I'm looking at right now are examples of the reuse of the Neapolitan degree and Neapolitan chord, and also having to do with the golden mean as pardon me, as found in Russian music theory and Russian composition in the late 19th, early 20th centuries, and generally, but also in the works of Prokofiev himself. And as I said before, this is Opus 3, number 4, the Phantom, and I want to talk to you about what I've found. And and this is sort of the other pole, the other outer pole of the pieces that I'm going to talk about over these few little analysis lectures that I'm putting together about Prokofiev. This particular piece was written. This particular piece was written in the early 1900s, and the one that I've done previously, the one that's called the Moonlight Over the Shadows or something, I can't quite remember what it was called. There's from an Opus 65 piano works, which were from the 1930s. So basically, this sort of sets the outer limits of a period of approximately 20 to 30 years of not Beethoven's, but Prokofiev's output, and then the other pieces that I'll look at, will fall within that time span. So anyway, I thought this might be hopefully this will be of some interest to you. Okay, now I want to talk a little bit about, and I'll try to make this. I'll try to use colors to make things maybe a little bit easier to follow. One of the first things that the Phantom is written in the key of D minor, and there are various types of pitch controls, or I like to call them, or referential pitches referential to the key of D minor, that are important in various ways throughout this piece. The first of which is this A, D, G sharp. Find the right pitches. Which happens through a large part of the piece in the left hand, and it starts right at the beginning. Find a good color for the ostinatos here. How about a good solid red? So there's a bass ostinato using those pitches that runs from the beginning of the piece over to approximately 25, 26, so measure 26 or so, and then drops out for a little bit. So this is a bass ostinato. and then it drops out for 4 measures at measure 25, measures 27, 20, 27, 20, 27, 27 to 30, and then at measure 31, it picks back up again and goes to almost the end of the piece. That through in the bass, Okay, so it's that A, D, G sharp, which of course are the tonic scale degree, the dominant scale degree, and the the raised fourth or the leading tone of the dominant of D minor in the low bass. There's also another sort of little repeated ostinato thing that happens in the right hand that I want to point out to you. This happens in measure 10, 11, 12, 13, 13, 14, and 15 first. And 13, 14, and 15. So that's sort of about here. There's another ostinato here that happens in the right hand, and the prominent notes in that are F, A flat, and C. F, A flat, C, and E. That kind of thing that happens in the right hand, right? And that first appears here in about measure 10 to 15 or so. And then it comes back at the end as well, 35, 36, 37. From about 37, this other ostinato starts coming in the right-hand ostinato, and it goes from about 35, 36, 37 to 40, 41, 42, 43, 44. About 44 or so. Okay, so those two ostinatos, D, A sharp, D, A, D, A, and G sharp in the left hand, and F, A flat, C, and E. And so those, I should have put that over there, but they're both the same pitches. Okay, so those are quite prominent. And what's interesting though, or one of the things that's interesting that you'll notice that that both G sharp and A flat, G sharp and A flat appear simultaneously in those two ostinati. Okay, now as I said before, there are other ways that D minor is emphasized here, and this next one happens in at measure 25 to 26. So basically, right here. Hang on, let me pull this out. Happens. Oops. Yeah, I know. It's not it's not Hollywood here. Not exactly a Hollywood production here, but hopefully you can follow this. So at measure 25 or so, right at the midpoint of this, there's this little thing that happens in here, where you've got an A, D, thing. In other words, the dominant and the tonic note of D minor. That good, strong, perfect fifth happens in the right hand in measure 25 and 26. And that same basic idea of the DA, DD, ADD, A, or ADD, ADD, ADD happens again in measure 40, let's have 41, 42, 43, 44, 44, 45, 46. That happens again about here. 45, roughly about here. This same this ADD or DAA kind of thing where it's D and A. D and A that's being emphasized here, which of course are the dominant and the tonic pitches of D minor. So that happens, and then right at the end, I should that shouldn't be quite that far over. And then right at measure 50, measure 45, 46, 47, 49, 50, 48, 49, 50, there's in both hands there is something that I think is related to this figure of a D minor of a D minor triad, of a full D minor triad in both hands, from the top D in the treble clef to the D octaves in the bass clef of measure 48 and 49. So that kind of thing. So this also helps reinforce the idea of D minor generally. Now, there are a couple other things that are kind of interesting here. There are other places, but one of the very interesting things that I found to be is that here well, actually, it's if you look in measure 14 and 15 over here, this little ostinato here. Now, what happens with this little? Well, it's not really an ostinato, but it's at the end of this particular. Hang on a second. Let me switch back to the right color. In this little ostinato, it ends with the note with a strong E flat chord going to a D minor chord. E flat to D chords at the end of this particular ostinato, and then the same thing happens again twice in the a couple of three times again. This E flat D happens also in this over on the second half of the piece. It happens, for example, in measure 39, measure 39 or so here, and then it happens in measure 41 and measure 40. Hang on a second. 40, 41, 42, 43. In measure 43 or so, this strong E flat D, E flat major triad to a D triad happens here again. And this is something that picks this up and happens again across here. Okay? So, pardon me, I'm still getting over a cough. Okay, but please bear with me. Okay, so that I found to be rather interesting. Is E flat to D, E flat to D. In these upper ostinatos on both halves of the piece, these happen again, like E flat to D, E flat to D, E flat to D. So Neapolitan 1, Neapolitan 1, Neapolitan 1. Okay, where is I with the rest of this stuff? Okay, how's that? Now, and there are other places where the Neapolitan chord is at least hinted at in this piece, and particularly there are the little cells here. And if you look at measure 1, 2, 3, measure 3 in the right hand, you have basically the notes G flat, B flat, and D on the first two beats of that 5/8 measure. And then there is another, and then right next to that there is an F augmented triad right after it. So, and what that is, and it's now the G flat, B flat, and D, of course, are enharmonically spelled. But if you respell the G flat as F sharp, you basically have the sharp 5 of a Neapolitan 6 chord, of a sharp 5 of E flat, B flat, D, F sharp, going to E flat, G, and B. E flat, G, and B flat, right? Sharp 5 of Neapolitan. Right, and the F sharp chord, or excuse me, the F, A, and C sharp chord, right next to it, and you can see this like again in measure 2, no, that's not measure 3, measure 4, 5, 6, 7. There are a bunch of places where this happens, and what that is basically a 5, sort of an implied sharp 5 of E flat, and a 5 of E flat in those measures. And this happens several times throughout the piece, particularly in the first half. Particularly in the first half, and so you can take a look at that. Now, so there are other implications of that, other allusions to this Neapolitan relationship, but they're very fleeting. Okay. Now, what's something that's particularly interesting about this is that if you look at measures 27 to 30, measure approximately 27 to 30 over here. Find another color for this. Find another. How about a nice purple color, maybe? Yeah, purple. Well, that's the one I use for the actual. Oh, how about this one? Yeah, this one. In measures measure 27 to 30, and measure 27 to 30 here. Right there, you have in the right hand, in the left hand, you have in measure 27. In measure 27, reading forward, you have G, D sharp, A sharp, D sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, D sharp, in the left hand, and respelled, of course, that would be E flat, G, and B flat. That's an enharmonic respelling of the Neapolitan 6 in the right hand. In the left hand. In the left hand. And in the right hand, you have something that's rather. If you look in measure, for example, in measure 30 or measure 28, you have the notes D sharp and F double sharp on the first beat of those measures. And that, of course, in D sharp and F double sharp, those also are part of are respelled found in the Neapolitan 6 chord. So there seems to be a real emphasis. And in both hands, simultaneously, there's a real emphasis right about there. On the Neapolitan 6th chord. And this, of course, it happens to be right at the golden mean of Opus 3, number 4. Right there. And that's, which I think is really, which I at least found to be of interest. And what's also really neat is the fact that this emphasis on the Neapolitan 6 chord is also dealt with is also emphasized from a sonority standpoint, and also from the standpoint of dynamics. From a dynamic standpoint, the piece starts very quietly at a pianissimo, at a double piano. And then it swells a couple of times, and then it moves up to a measure 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, approximately measure 13 that goes to a mezzo forte with of course some decrescendos and crescendos here. And then back to and then back to a pianissimo over here approximately. And then right at this point where these two Neapolitan 6 emphases that I'm calling them happen right here is the loudest part of the piece. There's immediately an F sharp, a double forte, a subito double forte right there, right where this little pattern comes in, and then the piece gradually fades back to a double piano at the end, with of course some swelling and some decrescendos in the middle. So it's this. So I find that rather interesting. That the loudest part of the piece is also at the golden mean, which is also where that particularly interesting simultaneous presentations of the Neapolitan, of the notes of the Neapolitan chord appear. Okay. Now the other thing from a non-pitch series, from a non-pitch standpoint, that's kind of interesting, is the pedaling indications in this piece. The pedaling see if I can find a good color for the pedaling indications. So this of course is dynamics, and then for pedaling there's an indication right at the beginning of sempre una corda, or the una corda, like the una corda pedal, which helps keep the dynamic level a little low, and it's also at the end of the piece it's also una corda. The una corda pedal is called for, but right where this thing here, right at the golden mean, what happens here is that the pedal indication, it immediately goes to a tricorda, or 3 strings, tricorda, which of course helps amplify the loud dynamic. And there's also una corda, and then it goes back to an una corda, and then una corda, and then there's another short tricorda right about here, tricorda, and then una corda to the end. But so I personally have found this quite interesting. These are sort of the aspects that I've kind of noticed in this piece. Once again, it's another demonstration of the use of the Fibonacci series, or the golden mean, and the Neapolitan chord and scale degree in a piece by Prokofiev. And this one happens, of course, this one was written in 1907, and the other one, the title of it escapes me at the moment, but it's a children's piece, Opus 65, number or something or other. I can't remember exactly which ones it is. But Opus 65 is a child's piece. But this also has this kind of use of the Neapolitan sixth in combination with the golden mean, and I find that to be quite interesting. And my lecture or demonstration or analysis video, whatever you want to call it, we'll look at 2 or 3 pieces, parts of 2 or 3 pieces that fall between the 1900s and the 1930s, that show aspects of this kind of thing, or the reuse, the varied reuse of the Neapolitan sixth chord and the golden mean as being important in their structures. So, anyway, I hope that made sense. I will put this up on YouTube as soon as possible. There will also be a description in the notes where you can find scores. You'll be able to find recordings of this piece, one of which has a score, and there's also a little map of where the measures are, so that if you want to take a closer look at what I'm talking about, you can find the measures fairly easily in there, and you can go from there. So anyway, I hope this will be helpful. I find this kind of thing to be very interesting, and it's something that I'm spending some time thinking about in my off hours, as we say. And yeah, I guess that's it for now. Thanks for looking. I hope this is interesting, and I hope you enjoy this video. Lots of neat stuff. There's that word again. Bye.